Welcome to Obstacle Running Adventures.
A big question that I've been really excited to ask. You had, okay, so Killer Gorilla famously opened up at midnight. I saw your maniacal smile. I was amazed that you did that. That was amazing. Um, was it reactionary? Was it planned? Because I've gone back and forth. Like you had a sign for it, so maybe you were prepared for it.
Yeah, like a bit of both.
Okay.
So the intent had actually been to mark it out. Matt and I, when we got to site, one of our tasks had been we're going to go mark Killer Gorilla and we're just going to leave it there.
Hmm.
And people are just going to run past it all day, hoping that we never open it. And it's just going to mess people's minds. And then in the event that we do feel that we need to like impact the race, we'll then open it. And we ended up getting caught up with a dozen things and we weren't able to pre-market. So then at the point that we decided we did want to react and we did want to primarily slow the leaders down a little bit, we had to go and market in the dark, which was fun but not ideal. You never really want to be trying to create something that's supposed to look like something else in the night with a couple of my marketing colleagues. Um, it yeah, I think we're always going to want to reserve the ability to adjust the race. If we make it too hard, no one's happy with us. If we make it too easy, no one's actually happy with us, right? They might momentarily feel happy, but no one wants to. You don't want to be there where everyone else is like, oh, you entered at the easy one,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't think that's good for
2019.
anybody.
Yeah.
And so, we monitor performance, we monitor how quick people are going, what we think mileage is going to be, where we think all the averages are going to be, and we want the ability to just adjust it a little bit, and that's what we did. I think the end results I'm really pleased with, both at the top end, but also the kind of the bottom end and where people averaged out. We obviously added some mileage. It was not egregious.
Hmm.
The loop there was 300 meters. So you then think, I marked it in an 11 and it was gone at 8. So you're going, okay. Uh, it was less than 2 miles of additional running if you were running our laps for the entire time it was open.
Right.
And I'm not, it clearly messed with people. That
Yeah.
was the intent. It clearly threw people off their game. When you're putting that much work out, the extra mileage, it doesn't count as irritating. So, and brutal and all the things. So I'm not diminishing the impact of that at all. Um, but I think the elevation impact
Yes.
is what we're actually going for on the mileage. As an example, right? If we just put a whole bunch of stairmasters there and you just had the Bosch up and there'd be no incremental mileage, but you had the same impact to your legs, or a little incline travelator or something. Obviously being a little bit facetious there.
Yeah.
And then it did as we'd hoped, right? It didn't impact the outcome of the elite race. We wouldn't have done it if we thought that was going to happen. It did slow people down a little bit, which was by design. And having taken away a little bit, once we felt that that elite race was buttoned up, we weren't really going to influence the outcome again. We started to give back into the bottom of the field.
Right.
Right. We started to pull some obstacles off that had really been grating with people. The intent there was, how do we get that person who's on 40, probably going to get 45, is broken to go, oh no, actually, I'm going to go out for another one, right?
Right.
I go from 40 to 45, I see some stuff closing, I'm coming back after that. There's a couple more things like, do you know what? I've got this. And so we took away and we gave.
Yeah. There's a few things to touch on that. A lot of people are complaining about the extra mileage because it's a very sacred thing. Like it has to be 5 miles, this and that. Like that's what everyone's shooting for. But in thinking about, I mean, as you said, the amount that it was added was borderline negligible. Um, but people are suggesting, oh, you can like bypass an earlier part of the course, like by skid marked, in order to keep it 5 miles throughout. But at the same time, if people use their band to skip that obstacle, then they're getting less than 5 miles too. So that's something else to contend with. And then also just the reactionary nature of World's Toughest Mudder, where that it's good that you can always change things on the fly, but also finding that balance of not being too heavy-handed that you're not graded on a curve, if that makes sense. Um, because there's always like the whole like the 125-mile bib out there, which has kind of become a joke because I don't think anyone's ever going to hit that. But is it hard finding that balance of like adjusting it too
It
much,
is hard
right?
finding the balance,
Yeah,
right? And remember that you're having to guess at the balance in advance. And like it's an educated guess. The teams are
right.
really good. But you've got to pick a combination of obstacles that you think is going to get the difficulty right. You've got to pick a combination of penalties that you think is going to get the difficulty right. And you've got to pitch that difficulty for Austin, who's going to put 100 miles down, and for somebody at the other end who's chasing 25 miles, right?
Right. Yep.
We think about our adaptive athletes and making sure that we've pitched the challenge that works for them, and at 50, and at 75, and at 100, right? It's
Yeah.
a difficult thing to get right first time, having designed it a long way out without knowing what the ground condition and weather is going to be like.
Yeah.
I think what we can do going forwards is we can be a lot more transparent up front about the fact that we are going to medal live.
Hmm.
There was a period in time where we didn't announce when obstacles were opening and closing,
Right.
right? And that opened a lot of jeopardy to it. And actually, in the spirit of sport and consistency and all of that, we've kind of constrained ourselves a bit. I think we're probably going to just pull back on a little bit of that so that people are expecting it a little bit more than they might otherwise have been, and then it might not be quite as jarring. We're definitely thinking about that mileage. To the point you made, we could have no obstacles that add any mileage, but that would mean no carries, as an example.
Hmm.
Because to the point you make, if your carry mileage is added as part of the course and then you start to wristband it, especially if the carry is a reasonable distance, all of a sudden you're knocking 10% off a lap.
Yep. And that was a big issue
Halfway.
with 2019 too, which I remember I got like 55 miles and there was like dance and you can get a carabiner and you can bypass mileage, and that was a shit show for that reason as well. So that's fair.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we got rid of, or at least any of those challenges or other components which were there, and we had some fun with them overnight that night, a really good time
Mm.
with some of the pit crew. That was brilliant, but they don't affect the race. So look, overall, I got shouted at.
Yeah.
So I know some people were unhappy. Some people really enjoyed it. Some people really enjoyed that, they hit their mileage and it included, beating Giles at messing around with these things. We will continue to try and get that balance right. And I think it's in everyone's interest that we do.
Hmm.
If you think back over a number of years, weather aside, we've made it too easy and we've made it too hard, and neither of those are actually good for anybody.
Yeah, agreed. So just we can clarify that it was Joe Rucco's fault, so we can move on from that. It's going too fast, Joe. You gotta slow it down.